All right.
Awesome, we'll start. Okay, so me, Kevin, and Matt Anderson, we're assigned to work with university scheduling to map out the process from receiving the request all the way to scheduling that request, and then also to identify some problems and hopefully provide suggestions to improve their overall efficiency. So university scheduling essentially is like a parent department between all the other departments in Cal Poly, such as like ASI, athletics, even the PAC is its own department. So they're behind the master scheduling of all the events that go on campus. So I'll start off with the current state. So we met with their staff members, Caesar and Allison, several times to get a grasp on the situation because we basically knew nothing going into it, and there's a lot going on. So this is a simplified version of what's going on. So we'll go over a specific request. So let's say Cody wants to use the UU Plaza stage because he wants to show off his juggling talent. And so he needs to put in a request. So he's the event host. So he'll go to the website and fill out a request. And that will essentially go to the server of university scheduling and end up in an email queue. So the email queue is staff managed. So they will receive these emails a lot and have to manage it themselves before putting it into the actual scheduling system. The scheduling system is R25. Now when Cody puts in his request, he has to say what kind of request type it is. Most students don't know what it is, so they'll say other or special event. And so the staff has to manually identify this before they can put it under a category that fits into R25. So when they put it into R25, Resource 25, the Master Scheduling Program, they also make side notes in Excel that other departments can't see. And at any point, if you guys have questions, because I know this is going to be all over the place, please interrupt. I would rather be a discussion than just a presentation.
So the input in Excel doesn't have like a box or anything that it goes to? You just sort of
It's not part of the critical process. It's something they do on the side.
Okay.
Now, in the Excel file, which I have an image later, there's some critical information that should be there,
Okay.
but they manage it on their own. And the other parties should be able to see it, but they don't.
Okay.
So it just makes more room for communication in there. So they spent a lot of time.
There's another question.
Oh, sorry.
So students it's not just staff, it's students who are also looking through you? It's students are booking through you too?
Yeah, it's anyone. It's anyone, staff, club, heads, faculty. It could even be off-campus parties. Yeah. So once it gets put into R25, so let's say the date is available, because they also look at that themselves, they send an approval request. So university scheduling would like to be able to say, hey, yeah, it's open, you can use it, but it's not in their jurisdiction. It actually belongs to ASI. So ASI also uses R25, but they have to constantly check it. There's no notification, there's no ping. They're just always looking at it over and over again. So right now it's sitting in a queue. University scheduling can't do anything for Cody until ASI fixes it, but ASI has their own priority list, and they don't even know how long it's going to take back to get to university scheduling, who also has to tell Cody to wait longer. So that takes up most of their time. It can range from, if it's a simple thing, from a few days. I think the longest one they ever had was 6 months, but that's an outlier. It's usually about 2 weeks. So we identified that as the bottleneck of the process. So if Cody's request doesn't adhere with the requirements, they go into negotiations. And that can just be by phone with the staff. They can go to the office. Sometimes Cody will go to ASI because he knows it's with ASI, but they'll say no, go to university scheduling. And they play this little game of pickle until it finally gets figured out. So that wastes a lot of time as well. But if it's yes, or they finally get to success, they have to assess whether there's additional requirements. So if Cody wants to serve food or have alcohol, or if there's over, I think, 100 people, the police have to get involved. And there's just a whole nother checklist they have to go through to make sure that this event doesn't get out of hand. And then they have a final approval, and they can finally put in the system that it is scheduled. And then they will let Cody know that he can juggle on stage.
So is the final approval, who does the final approval? Like,
that also depends on what it's dealing with. So if it's a student event or an academic event, it will go to the dean of students. This might go to the ASI president. It's really case specific.
And there's also that committee. Remember there was that committee for large ones.
Oh yeah.
So if there was a large event over 1,000 people, there was a committee, a formal committee, including the provost or the president of that school who has to be on approve that event before it can go forward. So it does get convoluted outside of the system.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions on this before we move on?
Cool. All right. So what we did was just took a screenshot of what Resource 25 looks like. So here it kind of shows all the different buildings or different places that an event would happen. And then so you just click on it. So this is an example of UU. Click on the plaza stage, and this is kind of just schedule what's going on for that week of what's booked or what's not. So it's basically like a giant calendar, almost. And as you can see, it's kind of a lot going on. And what they are very inefficient about is they have different notes that people can go in and write little notes in Resource 25 about it. And there's like 4 different places that they can write notes. So what the staff has to do is check all these different places instead of just one note place that where everyone could see notes. And this is what Andy was talking about earlier, the Excel slide. So what they do is they go in and manually check Resource 25 constantly throughout every day. And if something's new in it, then they'll go to their own file and update it on their own computer, rather than just like somehow automatically being updated itself, where they don't have to check and yeah, they don't have to let notified.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of this is like pending approval, not yet approved, looking for other stuff. And a lot of this affects the party, so Cody. But he has no way of seeing this unless he asks. It's like there's not a page on their calendar on the website that he can actively look at to see where his request stands.
So is this a shared? This is a shared spreadsheet between a bunch of different.
No, it's a personal spreadsheet, but it should be shared. That's a huge thing. So yeah.
So part of the problems, we've already kind of covered most of them. The event host has to categorize their needs, and then the staff has to manually categorize it further. And when the staff does it, there's over 50 different categorizations of it, and a lot of times it just ends up in other, and it just happens to be counterintuitive. And all departments have to manually check Resource 25 every day to see if anyone has entered anything new into it. There are different places where departments can enter in notes, what I was saying earlier. And then what they're saying was the biggest bottleneck of this whole thing was waiting for different departments to get back to their requests. So a couple more problems are with most of the employees being students, there's a high turnover rate, and there's no real good proper training on the system. A lot of times like during football season, the whole football team will need a room within like an hour, and they're like a big team, need more than just one room. Event hosts usually get students to make their requests for them so they can have it for free, rather than having to pay like they should have to pay for an outside event.
Do you know how big that problem is, or is that like an anecdote? They complain about that, but there's no data.
Get like a dollar amount that we can use on that. In fact, it would be nice, because we've only been working for 6 weeks, like we're literally scratching the surface on this one. The scope of this problem really needs like a full-time team to gather real data to write a benchmark.
Here, here, I just gotta say that.
There's so much going on.
It's kind of just like letting them that there's being profit left on the table by this, and these puppet students, they call them, are getting around the system with it. Another way that they get around the system are students who need rooms say that an instructor endorses it when the instructor has no idea that it's even going on. And the website is a bit confusing for the user, and there's a lack of awareness about the website for students. On that, we have a little video showing the lack of awareness about this.
James, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Ryan, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Yeah. For something you wanted to host? No idea. You heard the question, Johnny. Please? Yeah. Events at Cal Poly? Yeah? Have you done that? Thank you. Yes. Oh, I was placing all my money on you. Thank you. Do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Yeah. Hey Chad, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Why not? David, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Why not?
Because I've never had the resources. I don't know. I don't think you need the ASI, but I don't know how to push ASI.
Sit. It's me. Good boy. Do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? Smitty, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? He has no idea. Do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly? David, you wouldn't even know where to go? Olivia? Yeah, how do you do it? Who's they?
It's easier for your scheduling for the UU or anything else that's run by ASI. You go to ASI's website, and from there you just type in scheduling from there. I've done it a few times before, so.
Nice, that's pretty good. Oh,
Anything?
I was expecting to win. Kelly, do you know how to schedule events at Cal Poly?
I do actually. You go online and you submit an inquiry on the Cal Poly Conference website.
How do you know how to do that?
I know how to do that because I'm actually working at Cal Poly.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank
Thank you for the class. Thanks for watching. And Kelly, thank you for describing how to do that for all the students. Okay.
Alright, so one of the tools that we used in our A3 was creating fishbones so we could organize these problems and identify the root cause, which essentially is delay or inefficiency within the scheduling process. So we'll start with people because we just went over. Students don't have the ability to follow the pending requests and they don't really understand the overall scheduling process. So nobody knows where to go, even when you're on the website, if you've ever tried, it's not clear what category you fall under. And then once you do it, it's very hard to track. The next thing we looked at is process. So the scheduling relies on related parties' approval. So the process has this constant feedback that comes back and forth, but it's not met by the equipment, which is resource 25. So there's no visibility between the departments. They don't know what each other's going on. There's no notifications. It's not real-time data yet. It's also outdated and difficult to use. We asked Caesar why they're using it, and he kind of just said that's the way it is. So that's unfortunate. Also, the process, each department has its own process and approval method. So if this organization has sub-departments that are working by different standards, that creates conflicts in its own. We looked at materials, so there's inadequate information on the website. This goes back to the people who use it. It's just not clear. I've never been a fan of any Poly's websites, so I might be biased. The environment, so the scheduling environment.
I'm not a fan either.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Requests vary and they can change at any time. That's kind of just the nature of the business. There's no way to really change that, but you have to address that and incorporate your system to be able to handle those requests. And then management, they want a one-stop scheduling at university scheduling, so as the parent hub, but they don't provide them with the power to do so. As we saw in our first example, they have to have ASI's approval to make that even official. So this is just one suggestion I just want to point out. So as Kevin was saying earlier, when you go online, you can choose between these 9 categories on the left here. And these are the departments and the categories that the system actually operates under, and they're not the same at all. So this is just one of those obvious things of why don't you have the students apply for their events or whoever wants to host an event under these departments and then go from there. Just a simple suggestion. We can go to the next slide. So we kind of already went over the background, the current condition. The goal is to provide quick, accurate scheduling for students and have the staff enjoy doing it as well. We saw our root cause, and so I guess I'll talk about our countermeasures. I know you can't really see it, but one of them is that R25 is inadequate to handle this process. we talked with their staff and they said R25 Live is already going to be implemented. It's going to take a few years. Doing some research on that, that should provide the visibility that they need and real-time data between all the departments.
3 years? Okay.
He said it's a few years out still.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to change the whole system with everything already in it too. I can't imagine how they're going to do it quickly. Students don't really know what's going on, or the people who want to host it, so you can provide better training for them, better training for the staff members, maybe even a video on the website. Also changing the website to make it more clear and easy to use should also reduce some delay and communication errors throughout the process. I'm going to jump to effect confirmation. So this is really how we're going to see if any of these things work. So the first thing you need to ask is this saving any time? Are these measures making this quicker? But you can't say that's improving the efficiency, because if you just added more people, you're just shortening the time and adding more resources. So you also need to see if the staff workers are happy, if there's less errors, input errors between the parties. There's a whole bunch of data that you need to look at once these are implemented. Some follow-up actions we thought of is essentially monitoring R25 and how that's going, if it's creating more problems or less, if it's actually a useful tool. Surveying the students now and after to see if they appreciate these changes, because essentially they're the customer here and we want to make these changes to better, I guess, their relationships with the university scheduling. Yeah, and there's a number of others, but we'll move on. So hopefully you could get to a future state like this. The right side looks pretty much the same, but what came out was all the junk on the left. So event host, Cody, makes a request on the website, but the request is directly lined up with R25, so the categories are going to be the same, so they don't have to identify it. They can still check it, but they don't have to go through the process of recreating the wheel there. And so that will go directly into R25. If the time is available, then it will move on. If it's not, it'll get an immediate response saying this time is not available, choose another time. So that will go right back to him. Because R25 Live should increase visibility, the staff and ASI are both looking at the same thing the whole time, and those Excel sheets that they're keeping on their own, we hope to eliminate those as well. We're just trying to put everybody on the same page, because most of those process steps that you saw on the first VSM are just communication back and forth in this approval process in a system that's not aligned to handle their workload. So that's how we cleaned all that up. You get the approval request, it still has to sit in the queue, they still have to assess it. Alcohol, event size, that will all still stand there. And then we want to provide a direct link from R25 Live to the website, so Cody could also watch what's going on as well. I know that's possible, and it's not that hard to set up, so it would provide visibility for him too.
And like lastly, we want the final approval where once the staff checks yes, an automatic email is sent straight to the event host, letting them know that it was done.
So this is like a summary of the things improving. We're aligning the categorization, increasing visibility with R25, quick class for all the students and people who want to event. So maybe if you're a new student at Poly, it's part of WOW, your week of welcome, or they just put a video online, a simple enough video tutorial might help too. And then the automatic email, automatic system that should be there by now, but it's just outdated and they haven't gotten to it yet. I guess I want to end on the note that I started on the note that this is a huge project, that if you really want some hard data, it's going to spend way more time on it, and it's definitely a challenge. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So it looks like we've got about 11 minutes left. So how can we help this team improve their presentation? No, you can keep on going. So how can we help this team?
How long is the presentation supposed to be? You said 10 minutes in this syllabus.
Well, yeah, you can do a 10-minute presentation, but we got 30 minutes to
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
unpack it. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when the person, whoever that entity is, wants to have an event, Cody, does it go straight into Resource 25?
No.
It's stopping somewhere?
It's the email queue, though. It's the inventory that's allowed.
Okay, so there's an email queue, and then that information from the email gets entered into Resource 25?
Yeah, by a staff member. So they'll look at
Gotcha.
it and then
Yeah.
kind of transform it into what those things are.
and then they put it on an Excel spreadsheet of some
So
kind?
for some events,
No.
I know Allison puts her own notes over there, and flags it herself, whether it's pending with ASI or the approval from the PAC, whatever department they're working with.
Okay.
They do have some discretion to approve it on their own, simple ones, routine ones, but, yeah.
So there's no, I'm sorry.
I was just curious, there's two teams presenting on university scheduling. What is the difference between what you're presenting and what they're presenting? I'm just curious. Three teams.
So we're,
Wayne City wants me to start real quick.
yeah, we're ASI, so we're the ASI end, that's only clubs and fraternities and events. We just happen to, some of their stuff has to go through ASI. And you're university scheduling, right? Because your video said conference and events on the title.
Well, maybe say university scheduling.
Okay. Because you're conference and events, right? Okay.
I was wondering if you could just like, I guess pretend and sign up for one right now,
Yeah.
so you can actually see what's the process is.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a fun event somewhere that we can all go to.
Cookies juggling?
So you're going to conference and events planning, but this isn't,
You're at, I was stuck in my head.
oh, sorry.
He knows where to go.
It's a Cal Poly website.
I just Googled Cal Poly event request.
Demonstrate the problem. Now,
So,
Yeah, just go down. So you fill out your general information, name, department, phone, but none of that changes anything. But once you select one of these 9 options, it gives you different information to fill out. So this was the 9 that you saw on the left that doesn't line up with the departments that you fill out manually. So if you mess that up, and that's what they're essentially operating under, it doesn't change the form at all. But this does.
So, but this is this R25?
No, this is just their own system.
Right, this is, right.
This just generates an email that gets dumped into their inbox, then they look at that and decide how to put that in R25.
so that's what we were saying, we want to make this, so this will go straight into R25. From the user, we'll just put it right in.
But that sounds hard.
As long as these are categorized right, and the user knows, like if there's information displaying what, so the user knows where what they want should be,
Right.
it should go in top.
Or at least a queue in R25 that's already aligned, they just have to check and approve it. Just some link.
I schedule events for clubs through ASI. I just don't understand why they have 2 completely different systems and not just merge the 2 systems.
I also don't understand it.
That's something.
So I've never find this page. This is like,
This
Yeah,
is,
I have
so
a
ASI
question.
will feed it
Who
to university scheduling eventually, or it will just be in R25 and they both have to look at it.
And I have a question with your group. Who uses conference and events? Is that only external people or is it internal?
it's
people too?
internal and external.
Is
So
it
it's-
students?
It has to meet 3 requirements, one of 3 requirements in order to do it, so that's why I can't just be for anything. It has to be
Okay.
either for, what did I just say,
Educational,
nonprofits,
nonprofit, or community.
or like benefit the
Okay.
community in some way. So those are the only 3 type of events that can go into it.
Okay, so yours are pretty separate, but it seems like there's crossover between students, like you're saying.
I mean,
well, this
if
is
you-
not the E-plan form, right? I see, I think these are specific to academic reasons, whereas ASI, which we're gonna talk about, has its own link and its own form that then merges into your system. So the juggling event for a campus club would go through an E-plan, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And whereas I think some kind of academic meeting would go through here.
I mean, we're trying to deal with like the
Yeah.
administrative requests too. It also would have been nice to work with the other schedules.
Yeah, I think we all
Yeah.
merge at some point, but it's unclear to us separate little teams
Yeah.
where those merge
So
points.
like this
or
ASI,
diverge.
this is just an example, this could be
Yeah.
Spanish Stadium, this could be PAC, this could be.
Right, because we go into Resource 25 as well. We
Yeah.
go in from a different form, and then, yeah, and then you probably have to manage it.
Yeah, so that was a little bit sort of confusing, because I was like on an ASI track there,
Yeah.
you know, once you started talking.
We thought it would be easier to understand.
No, it's good to pick a specific example to sort of track through, and that's, you know, one of the things you're supposed to do, but, yeah, once I got on that example, I couldn't get back off again. Yeah.
Just to add one more twist for other groups too. So in extended ed, if I'm requesting a facility that ASI owns, so I want to request Shumash, but it's for an outside group for an educational purpose, I have to go through conference and event planning, so they can put in a request to ASI, so then ASI can approve it, tell conference and event planning that it's okay, so that they can tell me it's okay, so that I can schedule it myself.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then
So there's these shared facilities that
There's
are
a
like
whole
owned
lot
really by
of,
one
like,
group.
a different perspective from
Yeah.
the department level.
Seems like we just got more problems in our presentation.
Really good example though, really good example,
Yeah.
really good example.
So like, how are you proposing that students or people that are scheduling know that it's an ASI thing, right? Like, I know I've got a speaker. How would I know whether it's ASI or like these other categories here, right?
On the website, we want to make it really clear. Like, we need to update the website so the user can be informed about what they want, where it should be.
The video tutorial when students first come here. There's a website, it attempts to explain it, but I personally didn't understand it.
Because my understanding, ASI is sort of certain facilities are ASI facilities, right? So Shumash is an ASI facility versus the PAC is something else.
Right, so they have that document in their office, but that's not online. So that would be helpful to see online for students as well.
Like
That
which
would
one
take
is
like
which?
5 seconds to upload it.
Yeah, or color coded or something.
Yeah, that too.
I would also say for ASI, Mary mentioned the E-Plan. The E-Plan is the form that the clubs have to go through and submit, and it is way more detailed than what you showed. And so it's interesting to think that they fill out this little form that's basically like, here's my phone number, and here's the date, and then all of a sudden it comes over to ASI, which manages a lot more information. How that works for ASI, all of a sudden they're given this much, when usually they ask for that much.
I don't, yeah, my guess is that if you were to click ASI on your list, it should really just direct the user straight to E-Plan.
Yeah.
I think that your email is probably
The only
not
problem.
a club request.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The only problem is if it's not a club
I
or fraternity,
think
they
you're
won't
other than,
take
yeah.
it.
That would be my guess, not totally sure.
Yeah, it's
Not totally sure. Yeah.
So what were your, so we're looking for sort of the low cost, no cost, you know, countermeasures. So if I had to say, okay, in my little sort of elevator A3, the 3 things we recommend you do are, and what are those recommendations?
Okay, so the first one was R25 Live. That one's not low cost, but it's already happening, so we're going to accept it. And a lot of it is how the system is set up. So I think that's a huge one to change.
Okay.
The other one is training. So this one will be low cost, so providing more information to students and staff. And the third one was a better alignment of powers within the department. So this one is going to take a lot of time, so it's also not low cost. I don't think it's a low cost situation. But if those powers, because management wants one-stop scheduling, and they have the opposite of that. So shifting the balance of power between ASI, university scheduling, conference, and events in some manner should make it smoother at least, so there's not so much bouncing back and forth.
So you recommend like university schedule, should they be the master or like who's?
Or there's
like
no master, and if you go on and you just send it straight to ASI, ASI has the power to do all of it for their facilities, and university scheduling doesn't matter. And there is a master schedule, and maybe that head committee can look at that themselves, but all the departments run independently with their facilities. So either you integrate it all into one, or have no overlap, because that's where a lot of these issues lie.
Yeah, I think like sort of the no overlap though, so that says that if I want to do some event and need a room, I got to go to 3 different places and find the best deal, which is kind of what you do now, right, for these sorts of things, right?
I don't know how to fix
I would, I guess, sort of an improvement sort of recommendation on your sort of approach. If you can recognize that live, or R25 live is sort of inevitable in the future, and then sort of think about, okay, what things can I do now that would make the current situation or the near-term situation better, getting ready for that, that inevitable future. So I would have liked to have seen you something a little bit more lines of getting rid of those sort of multiple spreadsheets and, how can you do some better sort of consolidated handling of the stuff that's coming in now, right? Recognize, okay, I got this confusion, I can sort of cut down at least on some of the confusion, I think, in the near term.
And that's where we think Resource 25 Live, that will help, because if those
sure.
spreadsheets won't be
talking
done.
about it
But
right now.
that's 3 years away,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so you're saying the
You're not going to be here, are you?
Probably not.
It's just an idea, if you add these new categories, ASI, analytics, all those categories, I'm assuming it's going to be a sort of Dropbox. Maybe there's an additional Dropbox that if you pick ASI, the next Dropbox is a list of facilities that they operate. That you can choose.
The form would like regenerate for the thing that you choose.
Okay. All right, we need to get going. Good job.